Welcome to the Unbearables podcast. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Emilio
and Jack Cowart.
And today we're going to talk about a hype train. Not just any hype train, but a Euro hype train. Luka Doncic. Now, a lot of people have mixed opinions, especially us. But we're going to let you know what we're thinking. Now, some of us think that Luka's going to be great or just really good. And, yeah, I think that's Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll be like a legend or anything, but I think he's worth a second or third pick. I know his stock has been falling lately because his performances haven't been too hot, but he fits really well with the Kings or the Hawks, who have 2 and 3, I think.
I think you want him to be a legend, though.
I'm not attached to him anyway. I just think I just think he's fine.
Not like
a
emotionally
number 2 pick
attached.
is exactly where he belongs.
All right. So I can't deny the kid's talent. I can't deny that he can give you a lot of, like, he is valuable up front to some teams. Like, I think, like, you're right. I think he would be very valuable to the Kings. I think he'd do well on the Hawks. But I just don't think the hype is real, man. Because this is my thing. I saw his play, and I'm just 100% eye test. I saw his highlights. I watched the game with him against the Thunder. And the way I see it is, unless there's some major restructuring in his dribble patterns and how, like, the way he positions the ball next to his body, he's gonna struggle with turnovers big time in the league, and like he's gonna get ripped.
Well, that Thunder game, that Thunder exhibition match, like, it looked like every single person on the floor could guard him easily. And that was a really big, like, warning sign to me, because I'm like, okay, every single floor. And he is really young. He was really young during that whole thing. But at the same time, it's like, that is a little concerning, because you are still, like, a 6'8" kid. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone should not be able to guard you. I can't knock this, though, on him. He has a tremendous amount of skill. Like, he knows what he's doing. He has a very high basketball IQ. He sees everything. It's just that I feel like he's just a little too slow to execute everything. And my whole thing is like, okay, he's really young. And you don't get faster as you get older. You can get stronger, which he can do. And I really think he can do that. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like a lot of his problems come from his speed. And if that's the case, well, we have bad news, because unless you're like a sprinter, you're not getting any faster after the age you are right now. And so, like, I get worried with him. I really do think he can be a good player. I don't think he's going to be as good as everyone's making him out to be, a franchise-type player. I don't see that at all.
That's where I'm coming from.
I agree that his speed is going to be an issue, because you're right. You can't teach speed, but you also can't teach his vision. And I think that's something that's a huge point of talent for him. And I know he's gotten bigger lately, and he needs to be able to put in the work to get stronger, basically. And that's what you're concerned about, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know his drive. I feel like he probably does have a lot of drive, so he maybe would be willing to put in the work. But that also does scare me, because that means that you have to put in the work. Like, he's not set, and no one's really set in this draft, because they're all so young and everything. But it just concerns me, because I feel like a big part of, like, today's NBA is speed. Everyone has to be fast, almost every single player. There are players out there who aren't extremely fast, but they're also the ones who seem to be to be the best. And if you're taking someone within the top 5, they should probably have all of those qualities, and you say shouldn't be questionable. And for me, I feel like Luka is questionable because of that aspect. And it's like, he does have great vision, and I agree with that completely. But when I watched that exhibition match, he made a lot of poor decisions because he was being pressured, and he would just try to pass the ball. He looked like he was too intimidated by the defense to shoot. And that concerns me, because he was just throwing the ball for no reason. Like, he was trying to pass it just because they were playing too tight in him, and he just was trying to get rid of the ball. And so that led to a lot of turnovers. So that concerns me. Just because, like, if they know that about him, if I saw that, I think any NBA coach can see that, and they can exploit that in a playoff game where they are going to be playing tighter defense at any time. So that gets me concerned. He could grow out of that.
Right.
He could. But this is my thing, though. If he has to grow out of something like that, and this is what he's being touted for, his vision and all this stuff, it's like, then you shouldn't be a top 5 pick.
The way I see it is, people like when you're gonna be in the top 5, if you're gonna be a top 5 pick, a lot of people, especially number 1, number 2, number 3, a lot of people are, or at least want to expect these guys to be franchise players, like you were saying, Jack. And the reality is, one of the biggest things you need from a franchise player, and like practically and impractically, somebody who's not going to be afraid to shoot, someone who's not going to succumb to that pressure, who can be the man, the dog. Like this is a conversation that a lot of people have had with LeBron James, a lot of conversation they've had about Kevin Durant, and Kyrie being a dog. And yeah, like it seemed that he just, like, his confidence and the entire structure that he had ready in his mind for that game when he was playing against the Thunder, it just all went away.
It just eroded.
Yeah, exactly.
It was gone.
It was just gone. And if I'm any team looking to get him, that's a problem. Because now, again, a lot of people have been saying, oh, the whole European basketball, like, translating it to NBA basketball, it's not going to do well for him. And a lot of people have been like, well, you guys are being too hypercritical. But I'm actually with that. Like, the style basketball they play down there is a lot slower. It's a lot more methodical. And fast breaks isn't a large part of their game. Now, if you're going to go play here in the NBA, especially, which we don't know yet, if he lands in the West, that's going to be a huge issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Western Conference is tough, my guy. And if you don't got that speed, it's gonna be an issue, especially the position he lands in.
Yeah, especially because, like, fast breaks are so a part of the NBA now.
Vital.
And it's,
especially in playoffs.
I feel like that's definitely changed a lot ever since that, like, LeBron and Heat era, because they really, really just, like, they were so brutal against teams with their fast breaks, with, like, that D Wade and LeBron James, like, football passes. Like, they were always catching people off guard. And since then, people were always looking to, like, cherry pick for points. And that's something like, well, maybe Luka could be the one passing the ball to that person going down court. But at the same time, it's like you want someone to be able, of his stature, to be able to do both. And so that's what concerns me, is like, I don't see him as a franchise player, and if you're a top 5 pick, you should at least be a franchise player.
Or considered,
Yeah, I think you guys make a good point about him being a risk and the Thunder game showing a lot of his negative qualities. I think that's a lot of stock to put into an exhibition game. I know it's NBA players, like,
right,
they're just straight up better than the EuroLeague players, but I think it's discounting all of his accolades in the EuroLeague. I know it's not the NBA or even the Chinese league, which it might actually be close. But you're right about him being a risk. The thing about this draft, most of these guys are a risk. There are no sure things here.
Absolutely.
I think
Except for maybe Ayton.
Ayton's the closest thing to a sure thing for the Suns. I haven't heard too much like negatives about Jackson
And
or
Marvin Bagley.
But other than that, like, all the top 10 guys, they have that one thing about them. And like, if Luka can get over these issues that we're talking about, I think he's the most likely to be a generational talent.
It could be possible, but the thing is like you said earlier, you can't teach speed. And I'm not saying he has to be the fastest guy on the court, because, hey, he's 6'8". He's a big dude.
Right.
But it depends on if he can play like he's 6'8" and make that and use that to his advantage. And he's a smart player, so maybe he can in the future. Maybe. I just wish he could have played in, like, the American, like, with all these other college kids, so we can really get a better gauge of who he is. Because in the EuroLeague, it's a little different, because you don't know the type of talent that he's playing up against. And if he was here, it'd be a lot easier to gauge. Because I don't know if he'd still be considered a top 10 player or a top 5 player if he played over here.
Right, like at Villanova or Duke or wherever.
He might have looked better. I mean, we don't know that either. He might have looked worse, because that's the thing. And so it is hard to judge him, but from what I've seen, I applaud his basketball IQ. I applaud the skill that he has. Like, he does a lot of good things. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player or even above average player. I just don't think he's as good as everyone's making him out to be. Like, they're making it seem like he's going to be great right out the bat. and
Right.
I don't see that.
The other thing you have to put into like context is for him to be really good off the bat, you need to create a situation for him to play in a way that he's used to, like play the game that he's been playing out there. And, you know, in control of the ball, creating the play, you know, basically just playing a guard, like true guard form. And that, even that, like, I mean, it's a the hardest position to be good right off the bat for a rookie, I believe, is the guard, is the point guard, because the NBA is brutal. He's going to be going like against some defensive beasts where I feel like he hasn't really got that much of like defensive powerhouses in the EuroLeague. And yeah, you just have to create that best position for him to just, you know, be free, just do what you do. But that's going to be a little tougher to just off the bat get down in the NBA. But, you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, the thing, a big knock on Luka too recently is that he has looked like he gained a little bit of weight. But I mean, another player who is really dear to our hearts, Lauri Markkanen. He's gained some weight, but it's actually been pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
He looks like jacked. I'm not gonna lie.
Looks like a stud, yeah.
He looks huge, and so that's awesome because Lauri has so many tools, and I love that about him. He looks like he can just do so many things. If he gets to the peak of his abilities, it's gonna be scary. And this kid, man, I mean, he's about our age, but he has all the things we need. The one thing he didn't have last season is the strength to work in the post. Now he has the length, and that did help a lot, but he didn't have the strength. And so maybe this year he can open up a whole, like another arsenal of weapons. He'll have that all with him, and he'll be even just more of a threat. And I think that's awesome for the Bulls going forward.
Yeah. I think you're right. His strength was a big weakness, and depending on if we get him a front court partner in this draft, if we get a strong power forward who can back down and shoot the three, and a center, maybe Mo Bamba, maybe I don't know who else.
Wendell Carter, but I mean, it's kind of small for the
I mean, if I was gonna get another big, I feel like if Kevin Knox would be a person I think would be good next to Lauri, especially with the amount of muscle he has now, because now he could be a center.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm with that. I'm with that a lot more than Wendell Carter. Like, no knock to him, but he's just he's too slow, and I think like he's really good at the 5 position, and then like just seeing the court the way a 5 should, but he's small. He's 6'9" without his shoes on, and then like obviously he'll be allowed to wear shoes, but like that's a problem, man. Like it's a problem. Like you can't. But anyways, you know, Markkanen, love the guy. It's looking great.
Yeah, I much prefer to have him at power forward. I think I just prefer like the traditional center as opposed to these hybrid guys that are being touted lately. But that's just me, and I can see how you could go the other way.
I think though, if you have 2 hybrid guys like Lauri next to each other, though, that would be really hard to defend, because especially if you have 2 guys that are at least have a similar playing style as Lauri, because like how Lauri is now is that he's going to be able to score inside. He's going to be able to score outside. And if you have another guy like that who's able to do the same thing, it could help rotationally. And that could be really hard for teams to account for. And especially in today's game when they're so used to all the game being so spread out and not used to guarding the inside. So if you have 2 guys that can do that but can also go outside, that could be really good for the Bulls. Now, I don't think that's the best in the current situation they're in. I don't think that's the best move for them to do.
Okay.
But it could be good. I'm not saying it couldn't work out. I just really love Lauri, and I want him to be. I really want him to be a Dirk, honestly, and that's asking for a lot. I understand, but he has all the tools. He has the length. He has the shot. He's the youngest guy, I believe, or the fastest guy to shoot 100 3-pointers.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Over 7 foot.
Over 7 foot.
Yeah.
No, just in general.
Really?
Yeah. To shoot 100 like the fastest, I think. That was the thing. So he even did it faster than Damian Lillard. And Damian shot a lot of threes. But I'm excited about this dude.
Yeah. I see what you're saying about having a sort of hybrid guy like Lauri next to him. And like I said, it's not my preference, but a thing that that's good about it is that a big thing in the NBA lately is switchability on defense. And if you have two guys sort of the same mold, that improves our defensive abilities maybe just as much as a Mo Bamba would, to be able to have that switching going on.
Just to clarify, the record, he was the fastest player ever to reach 100 threes. Yeah, not just over 7 foot.
Oh, man.
In 41 games.
I love this guy.
I know,
41 games. That's
and no one thought he was gonna be who he was. No one. Everyone was saying the Bulls messed up, this and that. Lauri's never gonna be as good as Kristaps Porzingis. He'll never. There were so many people counting him out as soon as he was drafted, and he went just above and beyond. And I think in this season he's gonna go above and beyond again.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really awesome that we got him with the 7th pick, because I've heard a lot of Bulls fans freaking out about the 7th pick and how they don't always pan out. Well, Lauri panned out pretty well. I know it's only been 1 year, but I think we have a nice future with him.
If he stays healthy, if he avoids the injuries, and I mean now, what's it called? He had the length, he had the shot, and now he's got the strength. Like these are really good things for the Bulls, and you can't count him out. Like as of right now, he panned out.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not worried, because with the Bulls options, we do have options at pick 7. Some of them might pan out, some of them might not. But like I said, past the top 4 prospects maybe, we got a lot of risk. So, Brandon, what are the picks you want most at pick 7 for the Bulls?
At pick 7, do you want my top 5?
Sure.
Okay, so it's a little tough because there are a lot of things you could do, and there are a lot of routes you can take. So for me, my number 1, well, I'm going to start off actually, I'm not going to start off at 1. I'm going to start off at 5. My number 5 would actually be Kevin Knox, if I'm going to take that route that I just actually referenced earlier. Because Kevin Knox, he's only 6'9", but he's fast, he can shoot the 3, and he could get better in a lot of other situations. He honestly looks like someone who has a lot that he can still unlock, and I really do like his playing style. It's just he does need to get a little bit better at working inside. But I feel like a lot of not centers, he's a power forward, but a lot of those big men in today's game do, just because everyone wants stretch 4s. And people aren't used to working inside the paint as much anymore. And so that's fine. We can work on that. And also we can work on that as because we have Bobby Portis too. So he can have time to develop and do his thing. But at number 4, I would probably take, and I know it's hard but to say this, but if I could trade down, like I would, but I would like Mikal Bridges, because he's a 3-and-D type player and he can help any team, and that's all you really need. We need a small forward. He can fill that position. I don't think he's the best at that position to fill it, but we need something, and you can't go wrong with a guy who I think he shoots 42% from the 3. You can't go wrong with that, especially in today's league, and especially with the Bulls needing more 3-point help. Like, the Bulls need that, especially because, like, Chris Dunn, I love the guy, and I love how he plays. He's been getting better and better every single season. It looks like almost every single game. But the fact of the matter is that we need 3-point shooters, and Mikal Bridges does exactly that. And you can't go wrong with him. My number 3 is a little weird.
I'm excited.
I know it might not sound that weird, but I'm saying Trae Young. And I'm only saying it's weird because, like, the Bulls have Chris Dunn, and point guard is not a position that they're in need for right now. I don't know. Would you guys agree with me on that one, or how do you guys feel?
I have an answer, but I'll get into it when I start talking about my top 5.
Okay. See, my thing is that you can never go wrong with drafting, like, talent. And so I know we have Chris Dunn, and I know a lot of people like him, and I like him, and he's always doing good things, like I just said. But Trae Young has the possibility that he could be great, and like, he has such a high ceiling. Now, he may never even come close to that ceiling. I don't know. I can't see the future. But if he does, this is a player where it's going to be hard to guard. He's going to open up your whole offense, because Trae Young is a guy where if he is able to play even somewhat similar to how he played in college, and let's factor this in. In college, he was the only option on his team. So he did commit a lot of turnovers, but that was because
exposed for that.
Yeah, well, he got exposed for that, but it's not his fault. Because, like, if you're the only option on your team, everyone's going to know the game plan for you. And a lot of people actually knock that on him, too. But at the same time, it's like, okay, he's super young. And he still did perform pretty well for the most part for most games. He did have some bad games where he just took way too many shots. But he did seem to he took responsibility for that, and he did change that after that game. I just feel like if he gets close to that potential, even though you have Chris Dunn and you have your point guard who can do what you need, you can't go wrong with having someone who can do a little bit more potentially. But he isn't my favorite. I have two guys up next, and it's really hard for me to decide who I like more and I feel like I'm very alone on this, but for my number 2, because I don't think anyone's ranking this guy this high. But we'll see. People didn't rank this guy. Donovan Mitchell that high last year, but I did. So I don't know. Maybe
you did.
Could be right.
You were on that train fast.
And I was like, hey, he's gonna be good, and everyone's like, I don't know who even he is.
Hey, I'm on that train now. I'm a big Mitchell fan, so I'm gonna trust you with whatever you have to say.
I just hate the Jazz, but yeah. Go on.
Okay, out of all the guys I have seen actually play, have seen their body of work, I think Miles Bridges is my number 2.
I knew this is where
he's my number 2, and it's hard because I want to put him at number 1. I want to.
Wow.
That's the thing.
He really likes him.
I really love this kid because I watch him play, and he reminds me. He gives me, and this is gonna be tough for a lot of people to swallow. I get it. I understand. It's hard for me to swallow, but I have to say what I believe because this is what I believe.
Right.
He reminds me of the way he drives to the basket of like Giannis. And to me, that's special because not a lot of people have that ability. And not only that, he is similar to Giannis in other ways. He has a high motor. He plays solid defense. He rebounds. He'll do whatever it takes to win. And all the little types of things that you love players to do. Like, you need players to do those types of things, and he's always has his head up. And also, one thing that Giannis lacks is a shooting ability, and it's getting better. But this guy, he's a shooter. I think he shoots 39% from the 3, and that's really good. If Giannis had that, what are you gonna do? Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Giannis. I'm just saying he has a very good starting point, and I think when he steps into the league, he has a lot of tools that a lot of people I feel like are overlooking, and he's only 20 years old. He's bound to get better. And from what I've seen, it's like I think he can help almost every single team in the league. And this is why I like this guy. He might not show out as much in certain teams because maybe they have other guys who they're going to have play above him if that happens. And if that happens, then maybe you won't see him grow as much as he possibly could. But I feel like if he gets the chance to start and to grow, I think his individual talents can like help him rise above. And it's hard with this draft because a lot of players you don't really know. They're all risk. You don't really know all this stuff, like who they are. But I feel like with Miles, I've seen who he is. And I will put him at 1. But I can't because the potential of Michael Porter Jr. is just way too high. Now, like I said with Trae Young, it might not ever get there, and I haven't seen it. It was my only thing. It just gets me like so upset. I've watched his high school stuff because I couldn't see his college stuff. I did see some of it, but I saw the games. But he was hurt. You know what I mean? Like, he got back off of the injury. He wasn't at 100%, so I can't really judge him off of that either. And he also didn't shoot. I mean, like, he just wasn't ready. So I don't know, but his potential is so high. I mean, he says he's a mix between Giannis and KD, and I mean, like,
it's a high bar.
That's a high bar.
But I mean, what do you want him to say? Like, oh, I'm a mix of Luol Deng and Zaza. Like, what do you?
It's just this dude, man. I know it's like we were supposed to say, like, nah, bro, I might not be that good. You should pick me though. Like, he's like,
I stay true to me.
And this whole thing is like his potential is so high because he could be a KD. He could be, but we don't know. I don't know if he's gonna be that, but he has the franchise player like potential, and that's what I like because he has this length. He has a shot. He does have a shot, regardless of anything. That he does have that. So you're not gonna go wrong with that because that is what he is known for. He's known for his shooting ability, and so you can't go wrong with him. The only thing that is a little scary is that he might not pan out, but I have to put him at 1 just because the potential's there.
Yeah, I think that's a well thought out top 5. Mine is I don't think I have anything shocking in my top 5. It's pretty much who you'd expect as the most likely that we can get with pick 7. My number 5 is Wendell Carter. I'll be honest, I don't like him that much. I just think he fills a position of need. He has a relatively safe floor, but he does have issues. He's too slow. That's the biggest one.
Too mechanical too.
Yeah. At number 4, I got the other Bridges brother, Mikal. I think he has just as good of a floor as Carter, but a much higher ceiling. We need a wing who can shoot threes and play D. That's what he does, Mikal Bridges. And I see a lot of what you see in Miles too, but I also see some of the other reasons that he may be mocked a bit lower. But you got to go for your guy, so I trust you there.
One thing I want to say about Mikal though is that I don't really know how much better he could get.
That's a good point.
He is who he is. I think he's very valuable. He could be used on a lot of teams, specifically the 76ers. And I think they should pick him. If I was their GM, that's what I would do. But
which you could be.
Yeah, one day maybe, hopefully. But this is the thing. I think Mikal Bridges is who he is. And he's a good player, but he's always he's going to be that 3-and-D player. The thing is though, like, I don't know. That's why it's hard to put him higher, as I feel like there are other players that can become more, and that's what I'm a little skeptical of. But I do think he's. I'm not saying his value is undermined at all. I'm just saying that he is what he is.
I agree. I think the likelihood that he reaches his ceiling isn't very high, and that's why I only have him at 4. The 3 guys that I have above him, I think they're clear-cut superstar potential. Number 3, much like you, I got Trae Young. But I'm going to be honest, I don't like him at all. I don't want the Bulls to take him, but I have him.
Wow.
but this is for the
number
Bulls.
3, yeah, you know.
No, but the reason I have him at 3.
Team I love with all my heart. Take him, though.
The reason I have him at 3 is because talent over need 100% of the time. Sorry, 95% of the time. Because Trae Young does have that superstar potential. Everything Brandon said, I totally agree with. I mean, I'm happy with Chris Dunn, but like if Trae Young can be a top 5 in the league, I'll give up Chris Dunn for that all day. My number 2, much for reasons that Brandon said, is Michael Porter Jr. And I think you pretty much touched on everything we need there. I think you said that we can't miss by picking him, but I think we can miss because his injury concerns are a big deal, and he hasn't shared those records with all the teams, so maybe there's something that we need to know that we don't know.
Well, he shared it with us.
That's true. That's true.
So we do know what we need to know.
Hey, I'll slide you.
I mean us.
Well, yeah. Us. Well, no, he didn't send it to us. He sent it to the Bulls.
Right, he didn't tell us.
I mean, one day I could say
you
us.
Guest star on the podcast. Come through. Porter, come through.
But my number 1 pick that I want the Bulls to take at 7 was actually not on your top 5, Brandon. And
I'm so excited.
No, I'm going to assume that Brandon didn't have him on his top 5 because he'll already be gone by 7.
Oh, I know who it is now.
I don't think it's that sure of a thing. Like, I think there's a chance that Mo Bamba drops to 7.
Yep.
I love Mo Bamba so much. He's the exact style of player that's like my favorite archetype, and I think he pairs so well with Lauri. Because, like I said, I don't like that dual hybrid option at center. I think Lauri is perfect at power forward, and Mo Bamba's defensive potential at center. We need that so badly. The Bulls are so terrible on defense right now. We need a defensive anchor who can protect the rim. I know his offense is a concern.
We need more rebounds too.
We do.
Yeah, that's true.
Offensive rebounds specifically. Defensive, we're actually not that bad.
We don't get a lot of second chance points.
Right.
Yeah, and he's the one I want most, 100% of the time.
Whew. Alrighty. So, man, I got some similarities, some differences. Like, I don't got either of the Bridges on my list.
I just want to say one more thing about Mo Bamba just before we go through. Sorry, I'm just saying.
Bamba's on my list. And we can talk
okay,
about it.
Okay, fine. We can talk about it after. I'm good.
So, number 5, I got Wendell Carter as well.
Okay.
Because I mean, like he's
a
there's not a
slowpoke.
lot of risk, but there's not a lot of ceiling, and I overall just straight up don't like him. So number 4,
So he said your top 5 for the Bulls. You're like, I liked all of my players, and you guys are like,
but I mean,
I don't like them though.
They're all risks, but you have to take
try
that risk
right,
for
right,
the
right,
talent
right.
level.
Yeah, sometimes
Right.
gotta
Okay.
take some
So
heat.
number 4, very similar to you guys for your points, not on your list. I got Trae Young, and man, the only reason I got the other 3 guys above him is I just think it would work a lot better off the bat. Also, I'm very happy with Chris Dunn. So, but at the same time, you can't. It's okay to have 2 good guards. Like I mean, like that's not going to be an issue. Someone's got to come off the bench, and Trae Young probably would in that situation, like at least his rookie year. But
Yeah.
I think he has some good potential. I actually do enjoy him, even though I hate Steph Curry, and that's the comparison that a lot of people like to chase after. I do like him as a player. I like what he does. The thing I like most about him, though, is he is very confident to shoot that ball. He, like, wherever his feet land, he's down to shoot it, and I like that. Number 3, this might be the one not everyone likes. Kevin Knox. Personally, I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than most people expect. I think he can develop some really good traits defensively and offensively, specifically defensively.
He does need to develop defensively.
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
True.
Like, he definitely is a problem defensively right now, but I think he has what it takes to get over that hump. And that's also why I only got him at number 3, is because I don't think the Bulls would be necessarily the best place for him to go develop his defensive abilities as of right now.
One thing I do actually really like about Kevin Knox, though, too, is that he works really hard. Like, I watched a lot of his college, too, and he's
Right.
always looking like he's trying to figure out how to do something better.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
And it's like, those are the types of players you want.
Right. And that's actually that's why he's that high on my list. A lot of people would have him 4 or 5 if anything, but he's got drive. He's willing to put in the work. And that means 2 things. That means, 1, there's work that has to be put in, which is an issue. But 2, if he's willing, that means he's willing. Like, he'll do it. And there's a lot of players that just don't have that driving factor, that drive, that passion, the I'm going to will my way there. But enough about him. Number 2, and honestly, I would have put him as my number 1, but I think it is unlikely for him to land to us, just like Jack says. I got Bamba.
Yeah.
But specifically what you said, we need somebody that can protect the rim. And this guy has a record-breaking wingspan, and the highest ever in the NBA draft combine. And that's a big yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's
Big
a yeah.
deal.
Well, that's a big reason why he got a lot of blocks in college.
Right, exactly. But he does. I'm not gonna say he's a hazard or like a setback, but he'll have to develop more offensive versatility in his game,
You have
which
to be
most
better
people
at
at his
taking
possession
care of the
have
ball.
to, anyways. Right. So there's that. But I would put him first if I thought it was likely for him to land for the Bulls, but I won't. Number 1. Much like my buddy Brandon over here, I got Porter. And it's completely off of the same thing. I think it is a risk because of his medical concerns, but the Bulls already know what's what, so they'll do it that way as they do with that. But the reality is this kid has one of the highest ceilings of this draft. Like, where he can go, like, he's big and he can already shoot. Like, that is ideal.
And
for
he
what
can
you
dribble.
Want. Right, and he can dribble. And that is ideal for what you want to start off with if you want to create your star. But 100%, I think Lauri Markkanen's filling in our position as star right now. And
At the
I
moment,
want to
yeah.
see him be incredible. But, yeah, that if Bamba was, if I thought there was a bigger chance for him to land a little lower, then I probably would have had him on first.
Yeah.
What I do like about Bamba too, though, is like because part of me is a little worried about Bamba for some certain reasons because I haven't really seen him dribble the ball well, and that's something that does concern me because even when I have it, it just wasn't good. That does concern me with the way the NBA is played today because everyone has to play so fast. But then again, he might not have to do that. Like he did work out recently with Embiid. And if he can learn from some of Embiid's type of moves, and he does those types of things, he can be very lethal because of just his length. Like that's hard to guard because not a lot of people are that huge in the NBA anymore because you have to be really fast in this NBA. And when you're really big, you usually aren't really fast. But Mo Bamba does have like a really fast like sprinting. Like he's really fast sprinting, so getting up and down the court isn't going to be a problem. And even if he is very good at that, so that could help him just going forward. You know what I mean? Like I don't know exactly how I feel about him, but he could be really good. And I'm not gonna say any team who takes him, I feel like he's gonna help. And we do need more shot blocking. We do need more rebounds. And in this draft of people that the Bulls could potentially get, he would probably be the best at that. And I would say that.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's, I think what it comes down to with Bamba is if you believe that he can develop offensively. I know some people don't believe that, but I definitely believe it all the way. Another thing that I like about Bamba is that he wants to be in Chicago. Like, that's not like a huge factor in whether or not you draft somebody, but he said outright he wants to play next to Lauri. I know he's also said that the Mavs would be a good landing spot for him, but I think he's focused a lot more on Chicago. A team that he said he doesn't want to go to is the Grizzlies. Which is kind
and why
of a
not?
bummer.
Why? I mean, why is that not okay that he says that?
Yeah.
Why would he want to go to the Grizzlies?
For real. I mean, in recent history,
they got barbecue. That's about
it. I'm worried, but we're worried about a lot of these players. Like Michael Porter Jr., we're worried about him. Now, his ceiling's incredibly high. He might even I feel like he has a higher ceiling than DeAndre Ayton.
I agree,
Really?
actually, 100%. I think where he can go higher than him.
Well, because, like, when's the last time you've seen a center lead the team in this NBA, in this modern NBA? I don't know. When? Like,
Would the most recent be Tim Duncan?
Well, he was a power forward for a lot of his career.
Towards the end of his career.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end, he did play center, but not really because, like, when he won almost all of his championships he won, he played power forward because he had LaMarcus Aldridge for the last one, too. LaMarcus Aldridge was the center, right? They won with LaMarcus there. And so, like, my whole thing is, like, that's the reason. It seems like when you're a wing, you have the highest ceiling because you can help the team the most. You're going to have the ball in your hands more. You're going to have the ability to maybe even take it up the court. Like LeBron does that a lot too, and that's probably a big part of the reason why he's so great for so many reasons. But how you can help your team in so many more ways when you play with a center position or like even like a guard position just because you have the ball more. And so for just that fact, that's why I feel like he has a higher ceiling than Ayton because Ayton's not going to be able to do that on his teams just because he's going to have to run up and down the court and get set before he even gets the ball.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I just double-checked the Spurs roster the year they won. LaMarcus Aldridge was not yet there.
Okay.
I think Tim Duncan did play center for most of those minutes because the only other centers they had were Thiago Splitter and Aaron Baines.
Okay. Well, maybe he did.
But yeah,
I do feel
that would be the last time then a setter was like the most significant player on a team. So it proves your point, I guess. Like with regards to Porter, he was like a top 3 prospect before the start of this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, last season, before his injury occurred, like he was number 1, undoubtedly. Number 1. That was the consensus. Now he got hurt, and it's your back, and that's very serious. So I understand where the concern is coming from. But he's still in like the top like 8. So there, I mean, that kind of says just how good he could potentially be.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm pretty cool with like if the Bulls pick, I feel like any of our players minus Wendell Carter, pick any of these players we talked about, I'd be cool. Now, I don't like Wendell Carter just because I'm like, he's just too slow. And if we're going to pick someone, I would prefer to pick a better player than him with that pick.
And I think he's too small for his position.
Yeah, he is too small. He's too slow, too small. And it concerns me because, you know, who else was like that, who can score in the paint and do all these things? Jahlil Okafor.
Ooh.
And then look what happened to him. He was touted as this guy who could score in the post, do all these types of things, and then out of nowhere the league changed on him. And that's where I'm a little nervous about Wendell Carter is like, maybe this just isn't the league that's for you anymore. You're not big enough to get those rebounds like some of those other guys. Now, he could box out, do some other work, and do all this stuff, but then again, it's like he's a little too slow.
Right.
And
exactly.
that's you have to get in good position to box people out well. You got to be fast, and this isn't a league like how it was in the past where the big guys were slow. The big guys are almost all of them are fast. So that's the thing. And if you're not fast, you have to be really big so you could bounce out the smaller guys. And he's not big. So there's a lot of concerning points because his game plays around that type of play, but he doesn't have the size for it. And that does concern me. But
and then he doesn't have the speed to adjust at what he could do to make up for his size. So
Absolutely.
it's new. It's sterile.
you know what has really been interesting, like me lately? It's that Kawhi Leonard has told every team that, hey, I'll play for you for a year, but after that, I'm going to LA. Like, man, all these, it's so ridiculous. It's
You got to
like,
be so confident in yourself to pull that off.
I know. And you know what's crazy? It could actually happen. That's the most crazy part about this whole thing is that, well, because like if you're the Lakers, like, well, you're just not gonna take Kawhi.
Yeah.
Like if he wants to come, like you're just gonna be like, nah, bro, sorry, I can't take you. Like we already got LeBron and Paul George here. I mean, no, they're not on the team yet, but if that is the case, like they're gonna try to find a way. And the crazy thing is that the Suns are actually interested in taking Luol Deng and Lonzo, and that frees up about 27 mil in cap space, or 28, and it's like, dang.
You know who'd fit perfectly there? Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard might fit. They're gonna have to pay him a little bit more, like more than that. But then you have a team with Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, maybe if they want Julius Randle, and you have all these players on one. I mean, I don't know if you want that they're gonna keep him, but if they do, I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing. He played pretty well, but that's a lot of good players on one team. Like, not even just good. Like, some of those players are great. I mean, like, you're looking at Kawhi, you're looking at LeBron. Like, they're pretty up there.
The greatest,
like,
in some aspects.
I know. It's like they are up there. And if that happens, oh my gosh,
I
man.
think that's a timeline. It takes a lot to get there. There's so many things that have to happen. I'm not completely sold on LeBron, George, and Leonard all meeting up in LA because that Suns trade you were talking about, I'm not a big fan of that for the Suns either.
But the Suns are a big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
that's
the
what
Suns,
matters.
So.
Bro, why don't you like Kawhi?
No, I'm talking about. I like Kawhi just fine. I was talking about the trade about Lonzo going to the Suns. I don't think they need that. Like the Suns are still in.
What do they
rebuild mode.
not need?
Like they still need some time. I think
For what?
to get good players.
Yeah, but
so
Devin
like
Booker.
Lonzo.
If the thing is, though, they have to be concerned, right? Because Devin Booker wants to win now. He's been very like he wants to know. He's like, dude, I want to go to the. He wanted to go to the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, next year for sure.
Yeah, I might just have not enough confidence in the Suns. I don't think they're going to be sniffing the playoffs for 3 years at least.
I mean, if they have Booker and Ayton, I think they could. Well,
I don't
it
think they
is.
could next
The
year.
rest
I
of
think
their
they could the year
organization
next,
is
the year after
so
that.
chaotic.
That's very true.
Yeah, but I just feel like, okay, I'm not saying that they're going to make it to the playoffs. I'm just saying that the point I was trying to get at with Devin Booker is that they have to keep him happy. And if that's what keeps him happy and keeps him wanting to play with them, then that's what they're going to have to do because he is their, like, he's their light at the end of the tunnel. Now, if you take him away, it's just like you're never getting out of there. And so if they don't do that, if this trade is what helps them keep him happy, they're going to do it because, first of all, it gets fans to come to the games, buy jerseys, all these other things, and it helps them out. But second of all, it's like I feel like Lonzo will be good for their team, just because Lonzo actually does have good court vision, and I feel like Lonzo could actually distribute the ball pretty well between Devin Booker and Ayton, and that's what they would need. And that's still not enough. That's not nearly enough.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
You have to consider they're also taking on Luol Deng's contract in this scenario.
Right, which sucks for anyone.
Yeah, but the Suns do have a lot of cap space.
Right.
And so, like, one thing we could consider this, right, too. Now, earlier today, when we were on the podcast, Jack was talking about, like, say, what if Kawhi signs elsewhere? You know, what if he signs? And I thought that I don't think he would do this, but he said something about, I think, the Nets signing Kawhi for some reason.
Okay.
No, we'll get into that whole thing in a sec. I just want to say, if that's the case, where Kawhi eventually says, you know what, I want to go home. I'll just sign where I want to sign, and wherever I feel is best for me. Now, if the Suns somehow get Lonzo, no, they trade for Lonzo and Luol Deng, they have Devin Booker, they somehow get Kawhi next season, and they have Ayton. I feel like that would actually be pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Now,
Which I don't want because I hate the Suns.
now, like, I'm not saying that's going to happen because I think that there's like a 0% chance of all of that happening. But if I'm the Lakers, I'm definitely giving them Lonzo if I can get Kawhi. Why? I can feel like I can find someone else who can pass the ball, or you could have LeBron do what he normally does and play point guard, because I feel like that's a big possibility of that happening again anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah, and so if I can sort of get into that whole Kawhi and the Nets thing, I'm not entirely sold on Kawhi going to the Lakers next year, because we've already seen this happen. We saw Paul George say last offseason, hey, whoever signs me, I'm going to Lakers next year, and it was done. That might not happen. He might stay with the Thunder. Things change.
Yeah, things do change. But
If LeBron changes, then yeah, things change real quick.
I feel like, though, if LeBron signs with the Lakers really quick, Paul George might be like, you know what? I guess home does sound pretty good, you know. Like I guess like if they want me there, I mean, it would be nice, you know, just go over there, maybe have the best chance that I could have to win a championship. Like I'm saying it would be hard still to beat the Warriors. It would be
Right.
an intense battle.
And one I
But-
want to see.
But who's gonna beat the Warriors? You know, like the Thunder or Lakers with LeBron James?
I agree. That makes total sense.
Now that's all I'm saying. Like he might change his mind. We don't know yet because it hasn't happened. Nothing has happened yet. Nothing's set in stone. But there's always, I feel like, a better chance of doing something when someone has the mindset for it to, for getting it done.
Yeah, or when someone has LeBron James on their team, which
know?
is the result in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, hey, but I actually want to talk about that little that whole Nets scenario, how that all that came up.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not actually in love with Kawhi going to the Nets next year. That's not particularly on my radar. But the reason I brought the Nets up is because with the trade that happened this morning, they've now opened up a lot of cap space.
What trade?
This morning there was a trade for
Yeah.
the Charlotte Hornets sent Dwight Howard to the Nets, and in return they got Timothy Mozgov's absolutely bloated, insane contract, 2 second-round picks. and,
The way you said that, bloated, man.
2 second-round picks and
Acting
some
like he
cash
ate a bunch of
considerations.
pizza or something, bro.
Loaded like
no.
Golden Corral after 9 p.m.
I think that's a big deal because it shows that the Nets are trying to get good players, not necessarily this offseason, but next offseason. With Mozgov's contract off the books, they have enough room for 2 max slots next season. Now, I don't know. I think Kawhi and Kyrie are going to be free agents in that offseason. They might have the cap space to sign them. Sorry, they will have the cap space to sign them if people want to go to the Nets.
Yeah, my whole problem
Which
is
a
that
big if.
my whole problem is that that would be really good for the Nets, right? But why would anyone want to play for the Nets?
Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
was
saying,
like,
man.
What
That's
have
a
they?
big if.
What have they shown you that they know how to do that you can trust their organization? Look at who have they drafted well in just recent history? Exactly. No, I don't know exactly. So I'm just saying You can't just go off of who you can sign because that's not a good plan, especially for these players that want to win for as long as possible. People don't care about staying on one team anymore, not a lot of people, and winning with them and trying their best. They're like, no, I got to leave and just go wherever's the best. And the only way you get a player like that to stay on your team is if you can draft well, because you can keep on bringing in young, good talent when you can't afford to pay that talent. Like because eventually people call for bigger contracts, and you pick and choose who you want to keep. With the Nets, if you get one big guy, I just feel like you have to, for that to happen, you have to show them that you have a lot of young talent coming in, because you're going to show them that they'll always have help. And the Nets have shown you that they never have extra help. If anything, they have at most one guy who can help, and everybody else are just like, scraps of the rest of the league. Like, I don't know, like, it just, if you look at the net, there was a bunch of jokes I think at the beginning of the season, like the Nets roster looked like a bunch of like NBA 2K My Players, and like that's the thing, you don't know who they are.
Yeah, I think I'm higher than on the Nets than you are for next season, because I think their young players are like attractive enough to get free agents. They have Jarrett Allen. He's probably their best young player, and I know with the Dwight Howard trade he might get a few less minutes, but he's still their center of the future. In terms of point guards, they might not be the greatest. They have Jeremy Lin, who's like mid-aged for the NBA at this point. He also
still has some tools that you can work with if he comes back healthy.
Right.
And they also have D'Angelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie, who I'm not that high on like individually, but like I think they're totally fine NBA players.
Who I thought about Spencer Dinwiddie, just want to say this, that the Bulls should have kept when I watched him in the Summer League, and then he goes to the Nets. And he plays pretty well, and that's another thing where the Bulls should have kept, even if they don't want to keep him long term, because they could use him as a trade asset. So that was a good call on the Nets, but I'm still mad about that. That's why I had to say you said his name, and that's all I think
outside
about.
of those young players, with the money that they just opened up, like they can be what the Lakers are this season. Everybody's saying like all these guys are going to group up and go to the Lakers, or all these guys are going to group up and go to Houston. Like I think multiple superstars could group up and go to the Nets, like we're seeing happen, or we're seeing being theorized this year.
One thing I want to say though about, because I just brought up Spencer Dinwiddie and that whole thing, is that what this whole thing about like the grouping up though and coming to the Nets, like a bunch of players were I guess tweeting at Spencer Dinwiddie and telling him like to recruit LeBron to come to the Nets, and he like basically responded back to them. He's like, look guys, he's like, LeBron's not coming to the Nets. So I'm not going to be doing any recruiting of trying to get him over here. He said, but we do have a good young core. So my whole thing is that if the players on the Nets don't think that anyone's going to come to the Nets, I don't know why I'd have any, like, I would believe anyone would that has no ties with the Nets. Like that whole LeBron and like that whole like Bosh Wade thing that happened in Miami, that happened a lot because Wade had a connection with Miami, and Bosh said he wanted to go somewhere that was hot year round. Now, like the players have to have some type of connection to that team. None of these players have a connection to the Nets. The only connection that LeBron James has to the Nets is smacking them in the playoffs. That one season when they got like Paul, who was it? I think it was like Kevin Garnett. Or they had a bunch of players on that Nets team with that one big trade that gave Boston basically all their picks forever.
Yeah.
And made Boston a good team.
Yeah.
And if the Nets would have kept those picks, maybe they could have been a good team. But then again, are the Nets good at drafting? Who knows? We'll find out next time. I don't know. Like it's a tough situation. That's why I feel like if I was an NBA player, I would never trust the Nets. And it's hard for me to say that they're a good team, even like when they didn't really have a lot of like problems throughout the season, and they still only won 28 games. Like the Bulls won 27, right? But they had injuries. Lauri had to leave a lot. They were actually legitimately trying to tank. The Nets were actually playing their hardest every single game.
The Nets were actually. Yeah, I know. I shit talked the Nets so much during the regular season, but the Nets did have injuries of their own too. Lynn went down on the first game. Hollis Jefferson missed a significant amount of games. So did Allen Crabbe. With those guys coming back, and Dwight Howard now, and Jarrett Allen too. Like I think the Nets are out of the bottom 10, which I know is a low bar to shoot for, but I think they're going to get better.
I don't think that though. Like
I don't want them to get better.
Yeah, I mean they're in the Eastern Conference, so I'd prefer them just to be bad. But
True.
I'm just saying, like, when you look at though Jared Allen, you have to worry because when you have Dwight Howard, they can't mesh well together.
Yeah,
they
I
can't
know.
be on the court at the same time, and that's a big problem because like you can't do anything with that.
That was the one thing that really confused me about the trade, at least from Brooklyn's side, because like it's good for them to get rid of Mozgov's contract, get some more picks, get some cash. But I'm really high on Jared Allen, and I don't really see what having Dwight Howard does for you there. But in the long term, I think
He just might be a good trade asset. Maybe.
Yeah, like Howard has been on 4 teams in 4 years now, assuming he sticks with Brooklyn. So like I think they could just trade him next season, and that's just from the Brooklyn side of that trade. From the Charlotte side of that trade, I think it has even bigger ramifications because what they just did was they just took on a huge contract for an NBA player who's not very good in Mozgov. They got rid of their starting center, who I know Charlotte fans weren't that big on, but like Charlotte doesn't have that many more good players left. Like they have Kemba, Nick Batum is a good player, but like that's pretty much it. So
no,
I
they
think,
just have Kemba.
Yeah.
They just have
I know.
bro.
Kemba
Yeah,
is way above. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to have to trade Kemba during this offseason, maybe even tomorrow during the draft. I don't know. But so there are a couple theories about where Kemba could go, and I sort of wanted to see what you guys thought about that. The most popular one to talk about lately is Kemba to the Cavs.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Whether
what
or
are they
not-
trading for that to happen?
I'm not sure exactly, but whether or not LeBron stays, I like Kemba to the Cavs.
I'm assuming that they'd probably trade one of their first round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
But is that enough to make LeBron James stay? Maybe it is. But at the same time, it's like if I'm LeBron, I'm thinking like if I'm LeBron, and I feel like I know LeBron's mindset of like putting myself in the best situation to win.
Mm-hmm.
And like not just like now, but I mean just in general. Now LeBron knows that Kawhi Leonard wants to play on the Lakers. LeBron knows that Paul George potentially wants to play in the Lakers. Who would be a better trio, like Kemba, LeBron, and Love? Now Kemba has to have the ball in his hands. LeBron on this Cavs team loves to have the ball in his hands.
But he's also been getting fed up with it lately. Like he doesn't want to be on ball as much as he is.
He has been.
He says that.
He says that. But do you really think that if he's on the same exact team, he's going to change his ways? Now, if he went on a different team, there's a higher chance of him changing his ways. Now, that's what I'm saying. Like, who's the better trio? Paul George and Kawhi, or Kemba and Love?
Absolutely, 100%. It's the Lakers.
It's the Lakers.
I know, but LeBron, like,
I would take him though if I was the Cavs because the Cavs actually said they're planning on keeping Love.
yeah.
And
they
so
said no matter what.
yeah, so if they're planning on keeping him, then
Even if LeBron leaves, I think Kemba and Kevin Love, like, that's a fine duo to build around for the future.
it's all right. It will do. It can do some good. Maybe it can even be better for Kevin Love because when Kevin Love was playing without LeBron, Kevin Love was a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which is exactly my thing. Is like I would have to understand a lot. I would have to understand a lot more what's going on with Kevin Love. Like, is it just the LeBron thing? Was that just the problem?
Yeah.
Because I mean, Kemba and Kevin sounds like good. Like, it's a good idea for me, at least in theory. But is Kevin gonna produce what he needs to produce?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see.
That's just the one Kemba trade theory that I've seen thrown around a lot. Something that
For
I
the
sort of
number 8.
something that I sort of looked into myself as a possible landing spot for Kemba is the Pelicans.
Ooh,
If they
okay.
can work out a trade to get Kemba to the Pelicans, they don't have to re-sign Rondo, which that's not even necessary. They still could sign Rondo. But here's what I got. So if the Hornets trade Kemba to the Pelicans, they take on Solomon Hill's bloated contract, which they're clearly doing now, if Mozgov is any indication. Solomon Hill is making more money than Kemba on his contract. So they take on Solomon Hill and maybe Frank Jackson, their second-round pick from last season, and another first-round pick for Kemba. Like, it's a lot to give up, but if the Pelicans want to win now, that makes their starting lineup Kemba and Holiday in the backcourt. If they manage to re-sign Boogie, they have him and AD in the front court and insert a small forward, whoever you like. Like I think that's
I mean,
a
they
win
would
now
still
roster.
have Mirotic, so I'm assuming that's the guy that they would
Oh,
keep.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, so like Mirotic is a power forward in their system now because like Boogie was hurt last season when he got there for the most part, but that could be good for them.
Yeah, I think that's a total win now roster. Like that would make them like contenders.
I would just wonder about this though. Would Kemba being on the team kind of like undercut Drew Holiday?
It's something to think about.
Yeah, because like,
And how much of a problem would that be?
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough because Drew Holiday is super important on the Pelicans team, but who do you think is more important, I guess, in your opinion? I'm just asking. Drew or Kemba? Who would you think is like a better player for that Pelicans team? Just wondering.
Better player in a vacuum, I think, is Kemba. But for the Pelicans team, I see what you're saying. Drew does have the ability to play shooting guard and run the point. So it's a question. I don't think there's a clear answer.
I just wanted to ask this question maybe. Do you think Kemba or Drew could play better with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis?
I don't think I can give a clear answer because I haven't really seen what Kemba can do with those style of players.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Because Dwight Howard is a pretty different guy.
Now, if I was the Pelicans and a dream scenario for me, this is what I think would be awesome for them. If they trade Anthony Davis to the Warriors want him for Clay and Draymond. They also pick up. This is just dream scenario type stuff. Pick up DeMarcus Cousins and Paul George. They put Drew Holiday at the point. Now, what about that team?
That's a super team.
That would be beautiful, honestly. Like that. If so many super teams are made in the league, like the Lake on that West, oh my God, the West playoffs would be just the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen your whole life.
Yeah. So here's your starting lineup there. You got
NBA.
Yeah. You got Drew Holiday at the point. You got Klay Thompson. You got Paul George, Draymond Green, and Boogie Cousins. That's 5 All-Stars. And on the maybe Drew Holiday, maybe not. But on the Warriors in this scenario, you still have Steph Curry, KD, Anthony Davis. That's huge.
Yeah, because they're all MVP caliber players, all of them. But at the same time, like the way you're set up right now on the Pelicans, you're not gonna win, just in general.
Right.
And you're not gonna get like any great players through picks or anything because your picks are always gonna be towards the bottom. Now you could get lucky. So I just feel like if you're looking at it, the best thing for you to do is probably to try something new. And if that trade, Clay and Draymond, would actually help the Pelicans a lot because a big problem with the Pelicans is that they didn't pass the ball well enough as a team to play with the Warriors. And Clay and Draymond, they both can do that. And Clay can shoot. Clay is so clutch, honestly.
Clay can shoot?
Yeah, he's pretty good. And I just feel like they could open up that whole offense for them, and if they were able to get Paul George too and DeMarcus Cousins, like that's just weapons all over the place, man. And a big part, a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, maybe they do, but Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are very important on that Warriors team. And now Draymond Green is probably like the cockiest, like 8-point per game player in history of the NBA, but I mean, like he's important because he does so many other things.
Yeah.
And I think that without him being on there, there's gonna be a big difference because yes, Anthony Davis is incredible, and it's gonna be really, really hard to guard Steph, KD, and Anthony Davis at the same time. That might be like the hardest thing that anyone's ever done. But
Ever.
Yeah, like ever. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said
Out of
anyone.
anything ever done.
And it's like, but the thing is though, the ball movement and the scoring potential that Pelicans team that could have against the Warriors, I don't know. That could be very hard to guard because that would be a lot of speed. And it's just a lot to talk about. We'll never know I don't think it's gonna happen, but
Yeah, I really don't think it's gonna happen.
that would be really cool.
It would.
It would be cool, but then you'd have like a LeBron Kawhi situation. Maybe they get somebody else. Who knows? There's so many things that are going on in the league right now. This is what makes this time so awesome to talk about basketball, and we're going to continue to talk about basketball, but we're going to stop right now for today. We're going to talk about a little bit more next time. Thank you for listening. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Emilio.
Jack Cowart.
and thanks for listening.